Stack Designer is a fantastic tool set. It's something that really is one of the core features of Prime Services Catalog, and quite honestly, this thing is really the engine that drives a lot of the capabilities. The front end is nice. It's really really slick from a interface perspective, but where the nuts and bolts and all the core components of it, this is where Stack Designer comes into play. So the point of it is, when you're thinking about an application delivery vehicle, you've got to have the ability to be able to, make it easy for the end user to be able to deploy their application. Well, let's be realistic. In many cases, these applications have a lot of pieces that have to be integrated together. There's a lot of networking requirements. There's hardware and infrastructure requirements that need to be put into place. So what Stack Designer does is it provides a very easy way to be able to deploy it. Using a graphical user interface, you can basically string together and design these solutions within the tool set. It creates dynamic templates that you can use for provisioning of the virtual networking, security services, the virtual machines, as well as leveraging the capability of supporting things like VAX, for example, to be able to do fence containers. And if you're supporting ACI, you can do ACI containers with these. Bottom line is you can address how you want to handle security within the platform as well, and natively drive the configuration into the infrastructure itself. There's roughly about 25 plus application templates that come with it, and it gives you the ability to be able to then deploy a lot of these different enterprise applications, very simply with just a few clicks, because it's already built for you. The ability to be able to customize it is absolutely there, but you'll find that many of the types of applications that you're going to want to deploy, we've already got a template for it built into the platform. Now, going a little bit deeper into the platform, you can actually see here, this is what you would view with Stack Designer. So when you log into Prime Services Catalog as an administrator, you can select Stack Designer, and this is where you get the ability to be able to create those different pieces. So up here at the top, you can see the ability to be able to edit an application template. You can apply the name to the actual application itself. You also have the ability to be able to edit the image and the icon that you use for it. So if you're going to create a very specific set of applications, and you got a visual aid that you want to use to be able to identify that is where you would put the actual icon itself. You literally just click it and you upload the new picture. So here you've got the ability to be able to then drive a number of the functionality here. So you're seeing how the different pieces are strung together. So in that middle area, you're seeing all the different pieces, all the different template pieces that are put together. And then below that, you're actually seeing how the pieces will be integrated and how they're actually going to be strung together from the service itself. So the bottom portion is showing you Stack Designer and giving you that topology itself. So it's that graphical representation of it. It also includes all the policy information and everything else that you would need to be able to offer that service. It supports full UCS Director application container models. So the good thing about it is you've got all of that support pre-built into the platform, so you can be able to use those capabilities within UCS Director, leverage them within Prime Services Catalog, and it's a seamless integration between the two. You have the ability to be able to integrate with artifact repositories. So in the programming world, when you hear artifact repository, what that means is a finished piece of code. So an artifact is something that you will be able to build. Maybe it's an application. It could also be an image that you use to be able to load an application. Whatever it is, you've got that ability to be able to drive that connectivity to those artifact repositories. If you've got scripts out there that you want to use, whatever, Puppet automation, all those kind of things, that can be then integrated within this platform. So that's how you'd be able to call those different pieces. Now, let's walk through a little bit of the process itself. So here, we're going to go into UCS Director, and we're going to create a fence container. So we're going to leverage VAX. We could leverage VAX here. We could leverage, ACI container. Whatever it is, we're going to create that definition and that template within UCS Director. A lot of these things, as we start to talk about it, the first place you're going to do to be able to create a lot of your templates and store them is going to be within UCS Director. That's why it's so essential to this product set. The next step is that infrastructure template is automatically imported into Stack Designer. So once I create it in UCS Director, it's then exposed to Stack Designer, and it's something I can now use as part of my palette. So if you're an artist, you've got your paints on your palette. You just add that new paint piece of it, and you're able to then use that within your piece of art. Well, same thing's happening here. We can expose that template into application Stack Designer, and now you can use that to build new services. Next step is we can then add the application templates to the palette. These can be places where we got some of those pre-configured ones, or we can create our own as well. But here, if I want to deploy a JBoss application, for example, or MySQL or Apache Web Server, whatever it is, I can leverage those capabilities that are either pre-built or customize some myself and be able to actually put those into the Stack Designer, string those components together, and allows me to be able to create that service. From there, I then publish that into the catalog front end. So once I've built the service, I now need to be able to expose it to the end users. So this is going to allow them to be able to order that service. So once I've built it in the Stack Designer, I then expose it to the end users and be able to select how I want them to be able to see it. I can use role-based access control for this, so it's only available to certain types of users or those that are part of certain groups. I've also got the ability to be able to, make sure that I have the approval processes and all of those different things we talked about before. All of that can be put on top of those applications to ensure governance is being followed. So let's talk about how the end user would then leverage that application and then what would happen. So an application engineer goes out and orders this application stack from the catalog. So they go to the front end, they place the order. In the back end, what happens is that OpenStack heat orchestration solution that we talked about, it's going to then help to integrate within UCS Director. So it'll kick off that object that's already configured within UCS Director. So it'll tell UCS Director, go ahead and provision some servers. At this point, we'll use heat to be able to make that connection. So, these applications are going to be deployed, in the VMs. And in order to be able to do that, I've got to use something else to be able to make that happen. So the container object itself is going to be created. I'm going to use heat to be able to integrate within UCS Director and be able to launch some of these different, physical infrastructure components. But the next step is I want to be able to leverage something like Puppet to be able to automatically install the software itself on the virtual machine. So, once I've got the server's provision, I then have to load up my virtual machine, and then Puppet will be able to actually go in and install all of the different packages and modules and things to be able to ensure that virtual machine is exactly as I expected to be as part of my template. And that's pretty much how the process works. Next step is, once I've got that deployed, I've got the application up and running, all of this information is then sent back and synchronized within Prime Services Catalog. So when you go to that My Stuff page, you will actually see your service and that ability to be able to do that lifecycle management we talked about before. So you'll get full status view, everything. You don't have to go into UCS Director. Again, the Prime Services Catalog is your front end. That's your visibility into the IT engine. So now that we've talked about Prime Services Catalog and Stack Designer and creating some of those services, I think it's important to actually get into the product itself so that you can see where all these things are and how you would actually go about the process of creating an application template that you'd be able to then, show to the rest of the organization and they can use as a service within Prime Services Catalog. So the first thing we have to do is we have to log in as the administrator. The administrator is going to have much more access to different capabilities, obviously. They're going to get full visibility into all the different core components of what makes up Prime Services Catalog. So everything from the services portal, demand management, order management, all these different subcomponents allow you to be able to customize and configure Prime Services Catalog. So the one that we're most focused on today is Stack Designer. And Stack Designer is really that component that allows you to be able to build those catalog items that you want to be able to, again, show to the rest of the organization so that they can request these services. So let's go ahead and click on Stack Designer. Now, once Stack Designer comes up, you can see a number of different application templates that are in place. You've got application templates, infrastructure templates, and you've got some different parameters that you can configure here from this view. So we're going to go ahead and focus here on the application templates, and we're going to create a new template. So in this case, we would like to be able to create an application template based on a custom configuration that we're going to do. So here we're going to go ahead and add a new template. So this is going to be a Tomcat template. And you may be wondering, okay, what is this Tomcat thing? Well, what Tomcat is it's a web service. And what it can be used for is if you're developing, a different applications, you can leverage this as a, it's basically the Apache web server engine to be able to host and present the application to, to the end users. So Tomcat's a very common tool set that developers use and write code to. So here is an example of just creating a container, a template that's going to be able to allow us to be able to do that installation. So we're going to give it a quick name, Tomcat installation, and then we're going to describe it, installation of Tomcat. Super descriptive. And then we're going to select a group. Now, all of these groups are going to be pulled from UCS Director. So the cool thing about Prime Services Catalog in the Cisco One Enterprise Cloud Suite is it does integrate with UCS Director. So you can create these different groups, and then it syncs it with Prime Services Catalog. So that's what you're seeing here. So we're going to go ahead and select dcloud as the group. And then we want to add an icon because we've got to have a cool picture. And this is going to require us to have a services URL. So there is a web server that we have in this demo environment that will allow me to be able to select a number of different icons. So here I'm going to select one that references that Tomcat application. So let me go ahead and type in the components. All right, so that should get us access to the image. And as you can see here, the image pops up. So that's how you could go in and then create those images that you would see displayed then on the primary catalogs page. This is an easy place to be able to edit those images. So if you wanted to change it, you can go right in here and edit that. And all you need is just a URL to an image. And again, we have a repository out there. It's just an IIS server that allows us to be able to use these images. So from there, I'm going to go ahead and select the services that we want to be able to instantiate. So here we can actually select the one that we want to be able to offer here. So we want to go to a one-tier container with a gateway operating system. So let me find that particular one, running CentOS. All right, so this is the one we want to be able to use. So we'll select this as the template. Now what I'm doing here is I'm creating a infrastructure template. So this is almost like a placeholder for a particular type of application. And this is a very straightforward one. I'm going to load one server in this environment, but I'm creating a container that has a gateway that is going to allow me to be able to segment this from the rest of the network, but yet give it access to be able to communicate out of the actual container itself. So that's what you're seeing being built here. So the actual application, we're going to go ahead and select and add software. So this is that graphical interface that you use to actually build the service itself. So we'll go ahead and select software here, and then I want to search for Tomcat Puppet Linux. So what this means is we're actually going to load up a Linux server, and then we're going to use Puppet via Prime Services Catalog to be able to control the creation of this Tomcat server. So that's the beautiful part about what Puppet offers, is Puppet will let you go in and actually customize software on a system. So that way you can actually have, a very simple process where you can go and automate a lot of this. And that's one of the benefits of leveraging Puppet and that integration that we have within Prime Services Catalog. So here we're going to go ahead and give this a name. So we'll call this Tomcat. And then we're going to leave a lot of these parameters the same. So these are all the default ports that we're going to use. And this is going to be the configuration script that Puppet uses to be able to configure the service on the actual virtual machine itself. So we'll save this. And then we're going to see that it has been added to the software list. And then we're going to save it again. And then from there, we're going to have the option to be able to build the service. So here I've got that very simple container with a gateway, the networking associated with it, and then the application itself. And now I'm going to go ahead and build that service. So it's going to ask us if we want to create the service, and yes, we do. That's why we clicked it. And then it's going to come up with a couple other messages. So here again, it's not a big deal. It's just telling you that it's going to use Puppet for building that actual service. So we'll go ahead and click that. So now we're at the point where we can actually select where the item we just created is going to be displayed. So here we're going to select the display categories. We're going to put it into infrastructure as a service. So we'll do a quick search for IaaS. And then we're going to put it in, of course, that private cloud infrastructure as a service. So this is where we ordered something, that we'll be able to order things that's going to create a private cloud environment for this particular application. So we'll select Add. And then now I have that as an offering. So I'll go ahead and save that. And next, we want to go to presentation. Now, what this is going to do is this is actually going to allow me to be able to add an image to be able to display to show this particular piece of software or this particular service we're going to offer to back to the business. So here is a image that we can then add. So we'll add the image by selecting ones that we actually already have on here. So we're going to attach an image. So these are a number of different images that are already built into the system, as well as some that we've added. And I'm going to go ahead and search for Tomcat. And then we'll see what we've got there. So there's our Tomcat image. It's just a PNG file, so it's very easy to be able to add this. So now we can add that service. We can click Save. Of course, we can put any text we want to in there as far as the overview. So this is a great service. We'll save that. And then we'll close it. Oh, actually, one thing we've got to do first is we've got to set the permissions. So we've created the service, we've built the display portion of it. Now we've got to give individuals permissions to it. So you've got a number of roles that you can use within this platform. So here we're going to go ahead and add permissions. In this case, we're going to grant access to anyone. Now this is a way to be able to just give blanket access across the board, but I can go and use full role-based access control to be able to actually select either certain groups, certain roles within the organization, even all the way down to individual people if I choose to. So that's a capability within Prime Services Catalog to be able to do a lot of those more fine-grained offerings for particular groups, particular individuals we have in the organization. So you've got a lot of flexibility there, but we're going to go ahead and select this one to grant access to anyone. And then we're going to save that. And now we have a fully functioning service. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. And then I'm going to go back to the actual storefront itself. So I'm going to return to the catalog. All right, so now that we've built that application and that added that service to the catalog, let's go ahead and go back to the catalog so we can see if it's in there. So we'll scroll down, and yes, we can see that we did successfully add that service. So this gives you a view as to how you would be able to add a new service and create a new offering via Stack Designer in Prime Services Catalog.